How's it going, guys? Coming at you with a review of the Sccy Industries CPX2 in 9mm. This is a great little gun and one that I'm really excited to bring to you guys in review. I've been trying to bring a few more budget-oriented firearms to the channel, mainly because I know that there's a lot of people out there that just don't have a ton of cash to be thrown around, but still want quality and still want reliability from their firearms. And I think that this gun really excels in both of those aspects and has gained a lot of my respect. So let's go ahead and jump right into the review and we'll show you some of the base stats. So what we're looking at here is a subcompact 9mm. It has a double stack magazine and its capacity is 10+1. We're looking at a double action only hammer fired gun. Now the upside to that is that you do have double strike capability, so you can pull the trigger twice on a bad primer. It has a 3.1 inch barrel on it. It's a tilt barrel design, nothing fancy that way. Sccy tail is what the frame is made out of, and it has a carbon steel, nitrided carbon steel slide. So for those of you guys that don't know what nitriding is, it's a coating that actually hardens on the surface. It's very, very durable and it should resist corrosion quite well. For those of you guys that live in more of a hot environment where you're going to be sweating more, you might want to go with the stainless steel option that Sccy puts out for that bitone look. It does have 3-dot steel sights on top. Pretty nice little sights, actually. A nice little sight picture from it. Now some of you guys might be thinking, wow, that looks awfully like the geometry of a Kel-Tec P11. Well, that's because essentially it is a Kel-Tec P11. But what Sccy has done is they've taken the P11 and they've really refined it and made the fit and finish superb. The fit and finish on this gun is just really, really nice. The slide serrations are nice and sharp and deep. The nitriding on the slide is really well done. The seams on the frame are precise and even. Like, it's just a really, really, really nice gun when it comes to build quality. I really have no problems whatsoever with that. Talking about upsides of the gun, we really can't neglect the fact that I bought this gun brand new for $260. I mean, that is just a phenomenal deal. I've seen them as low as $240 for this same exact gun brand new. And so you're looking right around $250. And for what you're getting build quality wise, you really can't beat it. But one of the other biggest upsides to this gun, as I've reviewed it, is the fact that it's been 100% reliable. I've put almost 400 rounds through it. I think I put like 380 rounds through this gun, and it's ran flawlessly. I had one boggle, and that was there was one failure to lock back. But I'm pretty sure it was user error. I'm pretty sure that I had my thumb on the slide release at the time. And so I'm chalking that up to user error because I had no other problems whatsoever. I put 5 different types of ammunition through it. I put Winchester White Box, Federal Bulk Pack, Remington UMC, the Tula steel case ammunition, as well as Federal HSTs. 124 grain standard pressure, and those shot just fine. It ate up everything I threw at it, so reliability was 100%. And so your 3 biggest upsides to the gun, really as I see it, is that you get a gun that's right around $250. The fit and finish is awesome on it, and the reliability, as I tested it, was 100%. Man, you can't really ask for much more. But I am going to talk about some of the downsides to that, and we're going to get to that here in just a minute. But before we do, what I want to do is I want to roll in an M&P, a Smith & Wesson M&P shield for a size comparison. So we're going to go ahead and lay that shield down. We'll overlay the guns. And as you can see, really it is virtually the same in every dimension except for the width of the gun. So as we compare the widths of the gun, the Smith & Wesson, they say that it's 0.95 inches wide, and Sccy lists their CPX2 as a 1-inch wide gun. Now I'm sure that's discounting the fat slide release on the side there, but for the most part, you are looking at an apples to oranges. This is a single stack versus a double stack 9mm. But when you're talking about concealed carry, which is what I think this gun's which is really what this gun is for, is the 2 hardest dimensions to conceal on a gun is the height of the gun and the width of the gun. And this is a little bit wider gun. It's probably not as wide as a Glock 26, so it'll probably actually carry and conceal a little easier than a Glock 26 from a width category. I think it is a little bit taller than a Glock 26, but for the most part, you know, it shouldn't be a hard gun at all to conceal. So size-wise, you're looking at a solid subcompact double stack. Now let's go ahead and talk about ergonomics. What I want to do is I'm going to pull this shield back in here. And as you can see on the shield, I want you to look at this dimension here between my fingers and my palm. You see how there's very little gap in between there. Now if we roll back in the CPX2, as you can see, that gap widens quite a bit. I think they've added a lot of girth to the gun. They've got this back strap on the back here, and then they have, you know, like these finger grooves, and I think it adds a little bit of girth to the grip. And so it actually feels to me like a larger gun. So it feels larger than it really is. But for the most part, you know, it's not too big a deal. I didn't have a hard time controlling the gun, but we'll talk a little bit more about it when we talk about recoil. But it's definitely a thicker grip. So those of you that have smaller hands, you might not like that as much. But those of you that do have large hands, and this is a small gun, but those of you that have large hands, it's probably gonna be a lot more comfortable to you than it would otherwise. Now, when we're talking ergonomics, we have to talk about the trigger, okay? And this is probably the biggest downside of this gun, bar none, is that the fact that the trigger is a long, show clear here, is a long double action trigger pull. It's very, very smooth, but it's got to be right around 10 pounds. It's got to be about a 10-pound pull. And there's what I consider is there's very little communication with the trigger. Again, it's really smooth all the way up until it breaks, no problems that way. But what I do not like about this trigger, other than the fact that it's a long, heavy trigger pull, is that the reset on it is not only all the way out here, but there's very little spring tension, okay? So I found that when I'm shooting this, I actually have to kind of concentrate to make sure that the trigger's following me. So there's very little spring tension pushing back on the reset. And so actually, when it comes out, you can hear the audible reset right there. There's no tactile feel to that reset at all. So it comes all the way out, resets, and then you're ready to fire again. But the problem is I don't feel the trigger. As it's pushing forward against my finger, there's very little pressure. And so I'm actually over-exaggerating my trigger pull because I can't feel the trigger following my finger as I'm pulling it. And so overall, I think it's a very uncommunicative trigger. But it is smooth. There's nothing wrong with the trigger pull itself. It's smooth, other than it's long and heavy. It is a hammer-fired gun. You can see the hammer coming back as I pull the trigger. So it does have that double strike capability, which is nice. But like I said, the biggest downside of this gun is that the trigger is really not that great. It's long, it's heavy, and the reset, it does not communicate that reset very well at all. Okay, now another downside to this gun, and this is kind of a subjective downside because it is a subjective thing to some degree, is the fact that there was a lot of recoil with this gun. It's very, very, very snappy. Now it only weighs 15 ounces, so compare that to the M&P Shield. The M&P Shield is a 19-ounce gun, so it's actually a little bit heavier. And so anytime you go lighter, you're going to probably get more recoil. But the other thing that I think contributes to the recoil is the fact that the bore axis is a little bit higher. So the higher the bore axis, the more muzzle flip that you're going to have. And so I felt that a lot. I felt like the bore was a little bit higher above my hand, whereas if you compare the Shield here, the bore axis is not nearly as tall, plus it's a little heavier. So the Shield is by far a more comfortable gun to shoot. And I found that the Sccy was bordering on uncomfortable for me to shoot. Now again, it's a lightweight subcompact gun, but recoil-wise, it's definitely heavier, definitely snappier. And if you combine that with the fact that the grip is very, very large, and you might have a harder time getting a hold of it if you have smaller hands. For those smaller frame shooters or more recoil-sensitive shooters, you really might not like the CPX2. And, you know, like my wife never shot this gun, but I really anticipate her not liking this gun. That Shield is hers, and she really likes the recoil on the Shield, but I think that she would really find this to be a much snappier, less comfortable gun to shoot. So let's go ahead and break the gun down and we'll show you how that's done. What you need to do is lock it back, drop the magazine, show clear there. And what you need is you actually need a tool. So you need a flathead screwdriver in order to break it down. So you lock it back, and then right here on the pin, you have a little thing, you just pop that out. Comes out, and then what you do is just release the slide, and the slide comes right off. Now it does have a captured recoil spring. It's a tilt barrel design, nothing crazy fancy that way. But you can see the internals is very simple. That hammer fire design makes it a little bit simpler gun to shoot. That way, so it's actually a pretty easy gun to clean too. Like I said, I've had 400 rounds, almost 400 rounds through it. I cleaned it up, and as you can tell, it's really easy to clean. It's not bad at all that way. So the reverse, you lock it back. The thing you have to do here is you have to line the barrel up just right with the hole there. And as you get that in, then what you can do is just take the pin, pop it back in, drop it. And there you are, back in action. So, just like that. So the breakdown procedure, it's a downside that you have to use a tool and that you do have a removable part, but for the most part, it's really not a hard breakdown procedure. And once you've mastered it, you can do it very, very quickly. Really, in conclusion, guys, it's a great little gun. I'm just really impressed with how well the fit and finish is on it, how reliable it was, and at the $250 price point, it's half the price of some of its other competitors. And man, I don't think you're getting half the gun for it. The biggest downside, again, is that trigger. It's just, the trigger is a hard trigger, but if you train with it, if you get used to it, you probably won't have that big of a problem with it. But other than that, guys, I'm really hard-pressed to find a whole lot of other downsides to the gun. It's just a great little gun for the money. I mean, I really recommend it. So anyway, guys, if you have any questions or comments about the review or about the CPX2, go ahead and leave them down below, and I'll try to get back to you. If I don't get back to you, I've got a lot of great knowledgeable subscribers that will probably answer your question for you. But don't forget, guys, to subscribe to the channel for more reviews just like this in the future. Don't forget to rate the video if you do like what you see. Hit that like button. And as always, guys, thanks very much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video. See ya. How's it going, guys? Coming at you with a review of the FMK 9C1 Gen 2. A lot of you guys might recognize this gun as the quote-unquote Bill of Rights gun, and that's because FMK will actually laser engrave the Bill of Rights across the top of the slide. Whereas in that, I think it's pretty cool. I would probably opt for the more plain version of this gun. This particular one is a front sight labeled gun. You can see their laser engravings there, as well as their logo molded right into the polymer. I know that front sight and FMK have kind of been joining ranks, and I don't know exactly